welcome everybody to another Utility Emergency Response podcast. I'm here with my co-host Jim Wollbrinck, and
Hello, everyone.
Jim's here. So we're doing another episode just to for people to know who we are, our history, how did Jim and I meet, and also what are we trying to do with this podcast. So uh, I'm going to interview Jim first, and then he's going to interview me. So we'll make it very short and simple, and that way people know what we're trying to do here. So Jim, let's start with you.
Oh
Uh,
boy.
First of all, let's get into your history. How did you get into the water utility business?
I got into the water utility business back, boy, I don't even want to say the date, but I was working at a electronics company. I am a Silicon Valley native. Before it was Silicon Valley, when it was called Valley of the Heart's Delight, and there were a lot of orchards, and it was just a beautiful time in the spring. You had all the blossoms and the smell of the blossoms. It was an amazing time around here. But things changed. It grew and became Silicon Valley. I ended up working. Well, I worked for my dad when I was young. He was in construction, so I was a grade checker and worked with heavy equipment at my uncle's quarry. And then just by chance got an opportunity to work for a company that was building the computers for the Senate and the Congress at that time. And that's when the if you had, oh boy, it was like 64K of memory in a computer. That was a lot. A 5 megabyte hard drive was it was in a drawer, like a file drawer, and it was a big platter that you had to put in and clamp
Oh
down.
wow.
Just very, but that really started my kind of interest in computers and high tech. Um, Little fun fact, the way we would drive to my uncle's quarry, we would go this back way, and on Bub Road, there was this little building, and out in front was a sign that said Apple Computer. And at the time, you had IBM and all these like acronym type names for computers. And I thought, man, who would in their right mind name a computer company after a piece of fruit? They're crazy. Little did I know that I should have gone in and hired just to be the janitor and had founder stock, and how my life could have changed. But
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Got into water after working at this computer company, and a family friend was a manager at California Water Service up in Los Altos, their district there. I was getting out of the computer side of things. The company was starting to kind of go downhill. I just young, looking for a change, and it was a great opportunity for something that was full time with benefits and really a great company. So I started working at a water company, cleaning stations, fixing meters, reading meters for boy, that was like 3 to 5 years, and then started working doing the pump operating and managing the system, making sure that everybody had water and pressure, and worked my way into the office. My father-in-law was starting a telecommunications company, and I jumped into that and started their customer service department. It's a little call center. There were three of us. And when I left that company, we had 120 employees in the call center and working from 6 a.m. till 9 at night, handling upwards of, boy, I think it was like 12 to 1,500 calls a day, sometimes more. Um, but again, somewhat high tech and in the computer industry. Did that for a while. Worked up in San Francisco for another high tech company that did radio commercials and eventually TV commercials electronically. That was long distance. The family said, "Hey, you gotta come home. We're not seeing you." I leave at 6 a.m. in the morning and get home sometimes 9 o'clock at night. So with young kids, just wasn't a good environment. San Jose Water was looking for a manager for their distribution system maintenance. I had maintained my T3 treatment license. And so I came back to the water industry and then spent almost 25 years there. The last half of it was emergency management. And got to tell you, I really like the emergency management field. One, you are preparing for that doomsday event, or even just an event that's going to be difficult to handle. And you meet great people in the industry. That's how you and I met. We were one of the first users of your product, and at the time, I think it was it David Jackson was the one that
Right, right. Yeah.
that owned the company. My boss at the time, Rich Dreyer, he was the one that worked with David on setting up how would you be able to jump several homes at one time, where you could run the main down the street and then cut, tie in, and connect to the service to be able to keep customers in water while you're fixing a major main leak or having the system out for a period of time. And it was just a great time for me, and it's really led to the great relationships, the connections, the network that I have right now. And hey, you're a part of that.
Yeah, it's been nice, right, Jim? The whole water utility experience.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one from the standpoint of part of my time at San Jose Water was in water quality. And in water quality, you're regulated by EPA and Division of Drinking Water. They show up at your doorstep, all of a sudden everybody's nervous and
Sure, sure.
well, we're in trouble. What are we
Yeah.
gonna do? I left there and got into the emergency management, and they were looking to develop programs that help the utilities in emergency response and recovery. So all of a sudden, that group that previously was, oh boy, they're here and why are they here, became a group that would help me with exercises and be my evaluator for exercises and help develop a real positive cooperative relationship between the water side that they're regulating and us on the water side, which a contamination or something occurs, we need that partnership. We're going to need their help. And so it's just been great.
Yeah, I think people forget about the regulation side and how it affects emergency management. I think everybody thinks water utilities emergency management, they just worry about, disasters and local emergencies, but really it's a lot of things. It's a lot more than that. So, yeah, that's a great point, Jim. All right,
Yeah.
anything else you want to add? Is there anything, what do you do outside of, emergency management, water utilities? What are some of your hobbies, your passions?
Yeah, a little bit of travel. Last year we had a very nice trip to Italy and
Oh,
spent
great. Yeah.
some time there in the coastal areas, Sorrento and Positano, and then in wine country. Um, so that was a great time. Really, a lot of it is spending time with family. I've got one daughter in the Chico area and another in the Escondido, so Southern California area, and living in San Jose still. It gives us a chance to be almost halfway in between. I've got seven grandchildren and another one
Oh,
on
wow.
the way, so that can keep you busy. I do like projects, things that are in kind of the woodworking and gardening area. So my daughter down in Southern California likes to garden, and helping them set up the garden, get the right soils and getting things planted and so forth. And it's a great learning experience for kids.
Hmm.
I think so many kids see it as, well, where does milk come? Well, it comes from the dairy case at the
Hmm.
store, or where does our vegetables come from? Actually being able to see it planted and grow, and now you've got something that you can consume. It's just, seeing that and being able to see the wonder and so forth in their eyes is something I really like. Plus, I just I think there's areas in emergency management. I've got two different companies that I'm working with. One that's a startup. Um, I've got 35, almost 40 years of experience in water and emergency management, and being able to pass that on to another generation. And again, I like the high tech field. So being able to combine the water and the high tech water has always been seen kind of as it, an area that there wasn't a lot of change, but with the different chemicals and processes, um, there's a lot of innovation that's taken place in probably the last 15, maybe 20 years, where things went from drawings that were on paper and you had big drafting tables to now everything on CAD and GIS systems. You and I both work with some of the people when we're at the conferences with Esri and
Yeah.
others
Yeah.
that GIS component is huge. So that was one of the things I liked coming back to San Jose Water, was taking the high tech experience that I had gained and process innovation
Hmm.
and incorporating that into the water sector. One of the things that we did at San Jose Water, we were the first water utility to take the USA locates, underground service alerts, and convert that from an all paper process where a locate was faxed into the water company, and from there they'd give it to somebody and they'd go out and do the locate and then file that. It was terrible trying to figure out, if somebody hit a water main, one, was it actually located properly? And two, being able to recover the funds when somebody did hit it when they shouldn't have. It was located and it was accurate. We took that fax, used OCR recognition, converted it into electronic document, put it into an Access database, and now gave crews a laptop out in the field, and they would go out, do the locate, fill out all the information, talk to the foreman or whoever's in charge of the job, get their approval, and away they'd go. Somebody hit that main, that service, we'd be able to go out and immediately pull up on the system exactly when it was located, who was there, all the notes, and all of a sudden recovery rate for um, damaged property, it was just all of a sudden just jumped way up. So, things like that may not initially seem important, but what value it brought to the company. So we've learned a little bit about me. Now really we need to talk to and get some information on the founder of this podcast, and the guy that roped me into helping him with this. So Isaac, I think you've got a little bit of a varied background. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background, but then how you got into water and how you and I met.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot in there. So after college, I went to UC Irvine and graduated in 2003. So I'm a bit younger than Jim, if people don't know. But uh, Jim has a young heart, so I don't consider him very much older than I do, and he's very knowledgeable. So I appreciate that about him. And then after that, after college, I went into financial planning actually and got registered as an investment planner, investment broker. It didn't suit me well. The investment world did not suit me well at all. So I was in there for 6 years. I learned a lot about retirement planning, which was, very good, just good knowledge that I gained about how stock market works. But then I met a family friend through my dad and through other friends. and his name was David Jackson. And I was in between jobs at the time, and I said I was looking for something new. And he said, "Hey, why don't you look at what I do? I'm in the fire hose business and water utility business." So I was like, I had no clue what any of that stuff was. I thought it was kind of boring, to be honest with you. I didn't really think it didn't excite me. But my dad says you should give it a chance. Like hidden industries or industries that are not or sexy or famous, they can be great. And it was good advice from my dad. My dad gave me great advice at the time. And so I looked into it, and the more I looked into water utilities, and he took me on to some appointments he had, and really took me under his wing. It was quite amazing. It was really a great experience for both of us. And his name was David Jackson, like Jim brought out earlier. And that's how me and Jim met. So anyways, I got into the water utility business, first working through a distributor of David, and then I got into safety and emergency equipment or whatnot. Then after that, that was about for 6 years, and then after that, David started having health problems, and so I offered to buy his business, and he didn't really want to sell before, but when he got kind of sick, he said, it was probably a good idea. So unfortunately, he died, unexpectedly, very very fast of cancer. So it was a hard death for me. It was a hard death for everybody that knew him, his family wise too. And I still get people today. I go on appointments, and they still remember him, which is crazy. And I could be somewhere like in the middle of nowhere, like Arizona, and they're like, "Oh, I remember that guy. I remember that guy, David." Like it's pretty crazy. So he used to go everywhere, all over the West Coast, and that's how I got into portable pipeline systems. And then I met Jim through American Water Works Association, and knowing that he was a past customer. David used to talk about Jim a little bit and talk about San Jose Water a lot and how they were a good customer. They're a good organization. But at the time, I didn't really understand what he was talking about. And what he was talking about is forward thinker, organizations like San Jose Water. They're people that care about emergency preparedness, and that's the business we were in. So that's how I got to know Jim, is through the Security and Emergency Management Committee at the AWWA in Cal Nevada section, which me and Jim are still highly involved. But I think that's where we got to know each other the most, right, Jim? And then also being my company was past vendor for yours, and you were past customers, and San Jose Water is still a great customer for me. So a lot of history there with both of our organizations and our interest in emergency management. So that's why me and Jim we now I'm like in my ninth year with portable pipeline systems, and it's been great. It's been a great experience to meet. Like Jim says, the water utility business has so many great people in it, and me and Jim have met a lot of great people, and still meeting a lot of new people that are great. So that's how we got started with this podcast. Is we were just so enthusiastic about emergency management, and we thought, hey, there's no one else really telling, or not telling, but notifying water utilities that every day, every month. It seems like almost every week or every month there's something new in emergency management, right, Jim? Like it's quite
Oh, yeah.
it's always changing. So we thought, wow, it'd be beneficial to do a podcast on this. And so far, our reactions have been pretty good. I had a
Yeah.
podcast before. This podcast was just a marketing tool before. It wasn't really emergency management. It was more geared towards my equipment, which is part of emergency management, not the whole umbrella like Jim is. Jim is the umbrella. I'm very more specialized. So Jim has more a bird's eye view of an emergency management is like the way I like to see it. And so
Yeah,
that's what
no,
brought us here.
and it's funny that you were talking about David, and I always remember, and then again, that's how you and I met. Um, I every show I would go to the Cal Nevada section AWWA conference. They had at that time two a year, one in the
Yeah.
spring, one in the fall,
Yeah.
and David was always one of the first to get a
Yeah.
booth. He made sure of that, and he made sure that he was right where the raffle drawing was located in that very central area. So I
Hmm.
always knew where I could find him because he didn't move around. He was
Right.
always
Yeah.
somewhere around that
And he would
circle.
pay, he'd pay right away. Remember
Oh,
he would,
he
yeah.
was, yes. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so I'd always stop in and say hi. And then yes, that was, one time I stopped to say hi and you were there. And, that's when I had found out about his passing and that you had taken on the company. And because it's such a good product, I wanted to make sure that as best as I could, that you were successful. And one of those ways was to make sure that you got connected as best as possible with the rest of the water industry. And that was part of the reason for trying to pull you into that emergency management, committee that the security at that time it was security emergency planning, but now security and emergency management. Um, Mainly because I didn't want your product to lose visibility.
Hmm.
And because it was such a key component of San Jose Water's response for earthquakes, specifically for large construction projects where you had to jump a hospital or a major main leak in a right of way. You
Right.
you were instrumental in one of those that I think the system was out there for like 6 months or more while the
Yeah.
repairs were being made. So if that product went away, it was going to be a key component of
Hmm.
our emergency response platform that I did not want to see go away. And I think that's it. It's still, I think you're still heavily involved, even though I'm retired there. I think you're
Hmm.
still connected very well with San Jose Water and some of
Oh
the
yeah.
other
Yeah.
utilities, and rightfully so. It's a good product. What we're doing on the podcast, yes, it has expanded. What's nice about I guess what I can bring to that is I've always found that emergency management is not only the process and the tools that we use, but the biggest thing is the network.
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
always tried to expand and grow that network because whether it's experts in EPA or Division of Drinking Water or AWWA or wherever, there's being able to know who you can call at any given time that's going to help you. A
Yeah.
perfect example,
Hmm.
we had a fire in along the coast here in Santa Cruz area. That fire was starting to move towards the summit in Santa Cruz Mountains. Well, San Jose Water has a huge amount of property up there, watershed property.
Mm.
If that fire got into that watershed, it was going to devastate water quality and have all kinds of issues. But I had one-on-one connections with the key people at PG&E. So instead of trying to go through an 800 number and get to a rep I was able to call someone direct and within 5 minutes had all the information about the fire, how it could threaten PG&E, what we would have to do. So immediately gave that to our leadership. They had a generator moved up to the key location that if the power did go out, we were ready and able to keep power to the pumps, keep people in water, keep people to those or the fire agencies that were going to fight that fire, all because of a personal relationship. And I think that's so key in emergency management. And I think you're finding that with not only the podcast, but
Hmm.
also the work both of us are doing
Yep.
with AWWA.
Yeah, so Jim, you got kind of into what our next part is going to be about, and that is why did we start the podcast and what are we trying to do with this podcast? And who is it for? So if we can answer those three parts, I think we started the podcast because we didn't see anybody else really talking about utility and emergency management. I know I didn't. I mean, there's plenty of podcasts that talk about utilities. They talk about emergency management as well. but I don't see anybody that talks about utility and emergency management. So there are public works podcasts too. There's plenty of those as well. But we're one of the few, and I don't know of too many that do like what we do, just focus on utility. So what about you, Jim? What are we trying to do with this podcast? If you want to explain to people, I think you probably could do it best, explain it the best.
Well, I saw that you were doing the podcast, and immediately it was something that I had thought about, but just did not have the time or the expertise to really get into it.
Yeah, and I didn't have the expertise in emergency management. I would touch on emergency management, but that's what made you valuable because you have more experience with emergency management as a whole. So,
Right,
anyways, go
right. I
ahead.
saw that as the
Sorry.
perfect vehicle to give more information out to people. Plus, I'm always trying to find. I'm again the technology, the new approaches to things, and I think that's what we can offer here. A lot of the guests that we've had on board and interviewed have been either cutting edge or at that point where it's kind of a tipping point that it's good technology and it's just ready to really in a way go out to the masses in the emergency management community. And for our listeners, if you are finding a problem that you just can't find a solution for, that's where, maybe in the show notes we'll have the email addresses. Let us know if you've got a problem that you want to solve and you're just looking for the tools or the people to be able to do it. Let us know. That's exactly what we want to do is start that hunt, find that technology, find that expert. Similar to, when we interviewed George,
Yeah.
he found us and it became one of our, I think right now it's probably one of our top shows.
He did really good on YouTube. He did really
Yeah,
good on YouTube, yeah.
yeah.
Our top episode so far has been Kevin and Chris with cybersecurity.
Right. So if there's certain things that are emergency management related or water utility, not even water utility, I would say where I've tried to put a lot of my time and effort is in the interdependencies because you can be perfectly prepared as a water utility within your own little utility. But if you're not looking at the communications that you use or the power that you need,
Hmm.
that network that feeds that is so important that that we've got to look not just at water, but overall the critical infrastructure and how water fits into that. And the importance of water that others should be um, paying close attention to and taking advantage of. Let me give you just one quick example. The amount of water that is used for refining fuel just in California, while we're still refining fuel in California, is in the billions and
Oh yeah.
billions of gallons.
Agricultural too, right? I mean, it's just
Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Yeah.
Almonds.
Yeah, but how many water utilities exercise with the refineries that they serve
Hmm.
and do it regularly?
Yeah.
I would venture to say
It's
it's
unheard of. Yeah.
rare, if ever.
Yeah.
And they should, because again, in an event, you've got to have fuel. Well, if you don't have water to help refine the fuel, you're not going to have the fuel. You're not going to be able to respond.
Yeah, that's you bring up a great point is that's what we're trying to do is trying to get people to think about, things that are outside the box. I know fuel management is a big passion of yours. I think you should keep on doing that. I think it's a great concern of people. But who would be our listeners? Who do you think benefits from this podcast?
Anyone in the critical infrastructure area, because that's such a web, uh, power needs water. Your turbines are steam.
So energy utilities. Yeah.
unless it's a dam, but then it's still water. But
Yeah.
your peaker plants, any plant that is burning coal or burning natural gas, they use water.
Yeah.
So there's a connection there with water. Well, then water needs that power, so it comes full circle. We talked about refining. That's critical. So those are organizations and sectors. They call it the critical infrastructure sectors, of the nation and the economy that could get a lot out of this. And we in the future, I hope to be able to do episodes where we talk about that more. Um, but also, if you're any kind of a business and you are a heavy user of water or
Yeah,
power,
that's a great point.
now
Yeah.
now think of data centers.
Yeah.
They
AI
are
centers. Yeah.
they're a perfect fit to be able to listen to this and get information because from a business continuity perspective, what are you going to do if the water system goes down? What are you going to do if you lose power? Yeah, you're going to have generators, but those generators need fuel. So being able to understand that more, it's not just for water, it's for the critical infrastructure and then the major customers of that critical infrastructure.
That's a great point. Yeah. And maybe we found our next topic is AI and water. You know how critical that is. And that'd be a great topic, you know.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm not sure if they found us through the webinar or the podcast, or if it was LinkedIn. But there's a kind of a young startup that they're doing a lot in the area of 3D and modeling and using pictures and so forth. But I also am pushing them as a startup to think 2D and be able to have much broader impact because they are significant users and developers of AI. I just think in determining number of leaks after an earthquake, being able to take the work that's been done in that area and make it much more cost effective and efficient for water utilities. That if you can take your GIS data, put that into an application, have it churn the data and tell you, here's where you're most likely to have leaks. And by the way, here's the quantity. That is huge information for a water
yeah.
utility for planning.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Jim. That's a great summary of what we're trying to do here with our listeners. So we're at the end of this episode. So we're gonna do some quick fun questions. You answer and I'll answer right after. Okay. But it's the same question that applies to both of us. Okay.
All right.
All
Go
right.
for a
So
lightning round.
the lightning round. Yeah. So you are a coffee or a tea person?
Oh, coffee. And I take my coffee with a little bit of Fairlife chocolate milk. My niece is one of her dairy is one of the founders of that product, and
Oh,
I
wow.
tried it. I
Okay.
liked it, and so it's kind of a cheap mocha.
That's kind of different. Never heard of that one. Of chocolate and then coffee. Okay, for me, coffee it's as well, but I love tea at night because I love coffee in the
Ah,
morning, wake me up, and tea to calm me down. So I'm kind
there
of
you go.
both now, but yeah, I'm more of a coffee lover, like you. Just as a, okay. So next question. Um, are you a morning person or night owl? I think I know the answer question for you. I think I know what you
Yeah.
are.
I would say I used to be a night owl.
Okay.
And in the last probably 3 to 5 years, I've become a morning person. And partially, we spend a fair amount of time in Southern California.
Hmm.
I stay with my niece. They tend to go to bed early, so there's no reason to stay up late. And it's just all of a sudden gotten into a habit of to bed early, up early. And in a way, I kind of like that.
No, that's good. Yeah, I'm more of a night owl. I'm definitely not naturally a morning person, but ever since I started owning a business, you're kind of forced to be a morning person. So I've appreciated mornings more, but I'm definitely not that guy. So
There's
um,
there's some things to be said about waking up in the morning, getting that cup of coffee, and if it's the right time of year and the weather, being able to sit outside and kind of watch the sun come up. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. So your best advice you've ever received.
Something very simple from my dad. He had his own construction company. He ran a blade, and I'd work with him in the summers.
Hmm.
And he would tell me, always keep moving. I do not want to see you standing still. You're always, if you don't have something to do, you find something to do, but you make yourself productive. And that really got me into a certain work ethic that I've tried to maintain.
Hmm.
And I think it is valuable. Find something to do that's productive that helps people and keep that going.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. That's great advice. Yeah, I think me too is very similar. My dad told me never to always think with your head, and then he also to never give up. So,
Mhm.
very simple. The simple stuff is always the stuff that sticks, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, same thing. Okay, let's go to our next question. This is a good one for us to both answer. Who's our dream guest, or like what category? Maybe we can say what maybe somebody from a government agency, or what do you think, Jim?
I am a huge fan of Jim Collins. He's the author of Good to Great and Great by Choice.
Okay.
I did a little bit of work with his tools and so forth at San Jose Water. I think aside from emergency management, if there's any other kind of business aspect I would love to get into, it would be that helping companies be the best that they can be. And he did in his book Great by Choice, he talks about productive paranoia. That means the best companies are looking for what is that thing that's going to kill them and making sure that they're prepared for that. So that is what we do in emergency management and business continuity. Being able to interview him and how emergency management and he sees it, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be cool. That's a pretty good guest. I think for me, for our podcast, I think somebody like big from a government agency like NASA or like FEMA, I don't know if we'll ever get those agencies because they're not allowed to talk very much on podcasts, but I think it'd be cool. It would be highly relevant to what we do. So getting somebody from a big government agency like a director or something like that, I think that'd be really cool.
One to think about. And I mean, he probably wouldn't, but someone within the organization, Elon Musk,
Yeah, that'd be cool.
and you think about the
Yeah.
business continuity aspects, the emergency
Yeah.
management aspects of SpaceX. It just, I think that would be very, very
Yeah,
interesting.
that would be very interesting. Yeah, very, very good. Okay, to our last question. Um, One thing that listeners should know about you.
Mm. Well,
Kind of a hard one.
no, I think I've got this one.
Okay.
My on my mom's side of the family, one of her uncles was into genealogy, and he did a whole search. I mean, he was retired. He spent a ton of time. The family was from back east in the New England area, and one of the things I found out was I am a descendant of the Mayflower.
Oh, wow. So a pilgrim.
Yes.
Oh, they were pretty violent though, Jim. No, that's pretty interesting, right? That's very interesting. Okay, so me, what would I say? I guess I'll do a heritage thing like you did. I'm Mexican American. So I'm third generation Mexican. I do know Spanish. I think a lot of people don't think I'm Mexican. They always think I'm Italian with my last name. So they're always kind of surprised when I speak Spanish. So that's probably one thing that people didn't know about me. But I am Latino actually. So
Well,
I'm and
see,
I
and
and I
as
enjoy
soon
it.
as you said Mexican American, the first thing I thought of was Cheech and Chong and Cheech Marin singing Mexican American.
That's where my parents are from, actually. My parents are from East LA, and that where Ching Ching Chong was, the movies
Yeah,
from. They grew up in that whole area, so that's where my
really.
family's from. Yep,
Some
from
of my
LA.
favorite comedies from
Oh, they're
them.
hilarious. Yeah, they're hilarious. Okay, well, Jim, this has been a great episode for our listeners, I think. Is there anything you want to add or anything you would like to comment on before we close it up?
Really quickly, if we can make sure in the show notes our, email address or some way
Yeah.
for someone to contact us. If you're hearing this, you've got an emergency management problem or a process problem that has a business continuity emergency management aspect to it. um, Let us know. And if you have a certain technology that you think or a process that you think is poised to be released to the, the critical infrastructure community, let us know. We'd like to investigate that more and possibly have you on the show.
Yeah, that's a great point, Jim. Please contact us if you have any more, episode ideas or anything that's more valuable to the community. And I'm also, owner of portable pipeline systems. If you're a utility and you want to be more prepared, you don't want to rely on Asylum or a rain for rent to be the first responder. Call someone like me. I'd love to hear about your situation. So. Um, Jim, what a great and fun episode this has been. I think we're definitely gonna have fun with this one. So I appreciate you taking the time to for our listeners.
And I'm looking to hear what our listeners think of it. So,
Yeah, yeah,
yes, give
absolutely.
us the comments. If there's anything more we can help you with, let us know. That's what we're here for.
Okay. Thanks, Jim.